Alright, y'all. So with this one that we are looking at today, I'm not sure if we are breaking down the genesis of the human story, right? The human race or whatever. But clearly, when we are talking about when did we first become conscious, right, as a human race, you know what I'm saying? That would imply when did we become aware of ourselves as ourselves, and begin to separate everything, and make sure that we, I don't know, perceive or conceptualize or try and build everything into becoming a reality that is catering for us, that caters to us mostly. You know what I mean? Whereas, the rest of nature just like continues as the rest of nature, aka human beings seeing themselves as the highest form of intelligence in all of creation. You know what I'm saying? I would take that whole concept there, you know what I mean? But then again, I don't know what we are to expect. Just the thumbnail, the title that I'm going off of. Maybe it's something deeper than just, the biblical genesis of let there be us. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's something deeper than that we finna break down right here with History of Humankind, the name of the channel. Yeah, let's get to it.
Ain't no telling, do they love or did they kill him? The dominoes have fallen, we can't go back to beginning. This existential crisis, the reason I cannot keep competing and keep on living. So it's back against the world, seeing all your value once you dealt with all the dirt. Backing up slowly from these diamonds.
And so this might be one of the deeper questions of life, for some of you out there, you feel me? I hope y'all are curious minds enough to just like stick around for the whole video type, you know what I'm saying? Let me not lose you, you know what I'm saying? History of mankind better not lose us, right? Let's hop in.
40,000 years ago, deep within a cave, a human brain imagines something that does not exist.
Who's human brain? Boom! Right? Wait, who's human brain? Who? Tell me it's no Adam and Eve. Hold on.
They grasp a large mammoth tusk in one hand, in the other hand is a sharp stone tool. They begin to carefully chip away at the ivory.
Why?
This ancient human is an artist, and over many, many painstaking hours, a shape will begin to take form before them. A shape that is both familiar and strange.
We just started chipping away at the tusk.
To begin with, they scrape and chip away at the outline of a body, human legs, a torso, a pair of arms, a head. However, as the artist starts working on the detail, it becomes clear this is no ordinary human. This is a man with the head of a fearsome cave lion.
Oh, you know what I was thinking? I don't know if you guys who are familiar with the gaming out there, familiar with King from Taken, right? Y'all remember King? Y'all remember this guy? Look at this head, right? Hold on. Right? Snapshot this head. But then with a human body, because it seemed like he got a human body over there. Hold on. This. King from Take this guy. Do the images. Right? Oh, wait. Like this kind of thing. Reminded me of this, I ain't gonna lie. But King was one of the powerful ones, bro. King was one of my like favorite characters off Tekken. It's been a minute since I played that, but that's what that, right? The first artist designed a Tekken character.
1839, this ivory statue, known as the Lion Man, was discovered inside a chamber of Hollenstein Stadel, a cave system in southern Germany. It is the oldest known statue of its kind ever made, and attempts at reproducing it today using Paleolithic methods have revealed it would have taken over 300
Now this looks like a platypus though. Is this it though?
Hours to produce. Clearly, it is a stunning achievement.
Yeah.
But it also raises an obvious question.
What's that?
Why did someone 40,000 years ago take so much time to carve a human-animal hybrid, a mythical creature, into ivory?
Because it was hard. Like the technology wasn't where it's at right now. Right? Okay, I was just checking my mic signal. Yeah, it was tough, bro. It could have taken you like, man, damn near decades come up with a little design like this. Right now you can just like what is that, laser mold things, and like, you know, use the whole laser, what do you call that? They use the laser technology to just like come up with like a figure real quick right now, right? It wasn't there, it was far from that this time.
These were people living through the late Pleistocene, a time synonymous with tough glacial conditions and little in the way of comfort. Surely, these people's main priority would have been survival, finding enough.
And where did they find that tusk? It's probably from a mammoth. A mammoth, right?
Food and making sure they didn't become prey. And yet, someone still found time to carve the Lion Man. When scientists analyzed the statue, they noticed the ivory was worn and polished by continuous handling. Many now think that this is a sign that the statue could have had ritualistic and spiritual significance.
Of course.
Perhaps it was passed around during ceremonies, or maybe it was carried around like a kind of good luck charm. But whatever its purpose was, it reminds us that even 40,000 years ago, our ancestors were human, and perhaps not so different to us.
Of course.
They spent time thinking about the world around them and their place within it. They had imagination, made art, and attached meaning to inanimate objects.
Ooh.
And they cherished things that mattered to them. Even this far into the past, we can clearly see the level of consciousness our ancestors possessed.
Clearly.
And so, just how different is our consciousness from that of other species? And when did this...
You know, that's a great question. That's a question that I would sometimes ask myself. And listen to me. You ask yourself the same type of questions, you're not crazy. You're not crazy, right? Like as in, yo, do animals think about things the way that I think about things, right? They compartmentalize and say, no, okay, this is that memory, this is this memory. Or is everything just one mumble jumbled, sort of just one conscious experience? You know what I'm saying? Do they have names that they remember? You know what I mean? Clearly the names, you know what I'm saying, that they may give themselves, if that they do that amongst themselves. You know what I mean? The names cannot be the same way that I sound. You know what I'm saying? Like the sound and like just like formulating words, it's not the same clearly. But do they have like nicknames amongst one another, dog? Do they have like the whole role? Okay, this is my uncle, yo, this is my aunt, oh, you know what I'm saying? Or is it just like, yo, this is the authority figure that gave birth to me? And you know what I'm saying? That's a very great question. And not just like animals, plants, bro. They have the same type of consciousness, you know what I'm saying? Mind, yeah. They may, you know what I mean? These are just like random questions that just hit me. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to quit that job, bro. But you know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things where you're like, yo, do they even have a concept of a mind? Insects, that is. You know? Curiosity, bro. No, I'm not the only one, goddammit. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not the only one. Yeah. History of humankind gets it.
This journey begin? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or perhaps even millions of years ago.
Yep. I'm not gonna lie, to this day, bro, it's like the whole concept of a million years ago. Damn. It's so hard to conceptualize that, bro. Because like you have to conceptualize like how were human beings covering themselves? Did they even have clothes? You know what I'm saying? Did the idea of clothes even matter, dog? Like, or were people just like just moving? Just moving, just being like, yo, rocking my skin. Boom. Million years? Crazy. What the hell, bro? The entire history of
The artist that carved the Lion Man of Hollensteinstadel was of the Orinocean culture, one of the first waves of modern Homo sapiens to venture out of Africa and across Europe. And a 2023 study revealed the Orinoceans were closely related to later cultures across Europe, and thus have distant relatives alive today. Our long genetic histories are fascinating and complex, and MyHeritage can help us discover. tree and discover your origins, and you might also find new relatives. I found, and this was all a prerequisite, and you can also or by scanning the QR code. When we think of consciousness, we don't usually think of bees or other insects. Most people probably think of mammals, like our own species, or those closely related to us, such as apes or monkeys.
Yep.
Insects, in the eyes of many, are just drones, going about their short lives without much of a thought, if any, for themselves. But researchers at Queen Mary University of London think that bumblebees may be more conscious than we give them credit for.
Now, you know what makes me think that some of these insects may be just like conscious in their own capacity, however that is, you know, things like ants, right? You see them building these ant castles and, you know, going in a straight line. Some of these ants, bro, you see them, they have straight purpose, dog. They be like just moving with purpose, single file, going crazy, just like, you know, carrying whatever they're carrying. You know, it's with purpose, dog. It's not like, yo, okay, sometimes you see ants just going around, blah blah, maybe they just starving at that point, looking just for like something to eat. But yeah, bro, when they be getting on their purpose, bro, getting on their tip, you know what I'm saying, focused, locked in, I mean, yo, that should tell you something about maybe their level of consciousness. You know what I'm saying? They're at least conscious of something. They're at least aware that, yo, I gotta take this somewhere, get it to some place. You know what I'm saying? You don't even know where they got them little white things, them little white balls or like chunks of things. It's like they be finding them, so, right? So that tells me something about, you know, creatures that are not human, but, you know, still having like some sort of consciousness.
The team wanted to know whether the insects would do something, not because they needed to, but because they wanted to. They set up an experiment in which the bees could choose one of 3 paths towards a food reward. One path was a simple straight line, free of any obstacles. But on either side of this were paths strewn with a few small wooden balls.
Yep.
On one side they were stationary, and on the other they could move around. The only incentive to go via any other path than the one without obstacles was if the bees wanted to interact with the wooden balls. And, amazingly, every single bee in the experiment chose to do just that.
Really?
They even appeared to play with them, rolling around on them like a child on an exercise ball. The behavior had no apparent use for the survival of the bees, so according to the researchers, there was only one logical explanation. They were having fun.
Bro, what the hell, bro? Oh, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Shout out to the creators and the producers of, you know, but like to get to a point where you literally, hold on, let me just fix my camera a little bit. You get to a point where, man, yo, you get to establish that, yo, a bee is having fun, bruh. You know what I'm saying? A bee is like literally having fun, dog. Like, yo, how, you know, yo, the patience you gotta have, the curiosity you gotta have, bro. Even build these systems that are gonna like attract bees, like tap into their behavior. You know, yo, human beings are just, you know what I'm saying? Okay, no, I understand it's curious minds, and, you know, the human being wants to advance some, you know, into spaces that are just like beyond the human experience. I'm saying, to a point where we're trying to tap into like he's conscious, bro. That's crazy, bro. Human being can get so deep, bro. Motherfucker having fun, right? How you know he's not like looking for like you know, trying to grab its way through an exit or some shit. You know what I'm saying? It's trying to escape. Like and it just keeps bumping into these balls. I'm kidding, bro. Like, you know best, man, boy. You know best, history of humankind.
If they make decisions based on what they want, rather than on simple instinct or survival, could we say that a bumblebee is conscious? Consciousness has puzzled scientists and philosophers for thousands of years. Long the realm of philosophy, for much of human history, it has of course been practically impossible to see what a thought looked like. But in the 1920s,
No. I gotta differ on that one. I feel like thoughts, dude, thoughts are what manifest around us at the end of the day, right? Like that's literally thoughts. Somebody had to think of the idea of the building that you're, living in right now. You know what I'm saying? Somebody had to think about the idea of like what a chair, you know what I'm saying? Some like a little structure that could support the human structure, you know what I'm saying? Wanting to rest or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Not wanting to stand up the whole time. What is a wooden structure that's not gonna like have the human needing to lie down just to like rest? You know what I mean? Hey, the chair. You feel what I'm saying? And obviously that whole just structure, like how to formulate it, it had to come from somebody's ideas, and that's a thought. So literally everything. I feel like everything, down to a point of view, dog. Yes, you in existence right now. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah, no, I'm saying? Like, if people just, just think about laying with one another, you know what I'm saying? Having coitus with one another, and then, like, to them, it's just, I'm just trying to bust this nut, you feel what I'm saying? But then at the same time, busting the nut, it does carry the possibility of creating you that's viewing this video right now. Look, I'm not trying to speak down on you, like, it's the same concept with me, right? It's the same concept with me. You even have the version of parents that like, plan, now we are literally having kids, right? So we, rubber aside. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not even, you know what I'm saying? They plan, they do it intentionally, but that was a thought first. You feel me? That's my whole point. Everything is a thought first. So the impossibility of seeing thoughts, I kind of differ on that one.
Physicist Hans Berger developed the electroencephalogram, the first tool that could record human brain activity without being invasive into the skull. Berger placed electrodes on his own son's head and used a new amplifier to convert the brain's electrical signals into visible traces on paper. We could, at long last, see the mind. This line of research would continue
seeing the mind's activities
throughout the 20th century. When electrically stimulating epileptic patients' brains in the 1940s and 50s, Wilder Penfield and Herbert Jasper found they could create experiences such as light or sound, and even elicit the vivid recall of memories. This allowed them to begin to build maps of where the sensory side of consciousness is processed in the brain. These and other experiments like them provided pieces of the mind-body puzzle, linking aspects of consciousness to areas and processes in the brain.
Right.
In the 1990s, Francis Crick, one of the discoverers of DNA, and his colleague Christoph Koch coined the term neural correlates of...
But I'm not gonna lie, bro. You know how people have these views about, philosophers and then scientists and like that. I feel like, scientists' imagination gotta be one of the most richest. Scientists' imagination, for them to even get to the empirical, just like evidence and the material and the resources to put the things together to want to prove some stuff on a very tangible level, very calculated level, where it's like, I'm trying to make this thing come to real life without it slipping through any sort of cracks. I want to, and I guess society did get to a point of finding enough value in that, to start incentivizing that. We started just like, having our scientists play big roles and start paying them a lot for, their minds. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's their imaginations.
Of consciousness. They sought to further the search for consciousness and ask, if it is a physical process, where are the neural correlates for this experience?
Okay.
Suppose you were to glance upon the majestic Victoria Falls of the Zambezi River.
Right.
The neural correlates that are associated with that experience are the neurons that fire whenever a person observes, imagines, or dreams a waterfall.
Fire.
Thousands of these neurons can be active at the same time and in differing combinations, allowing for interaction between them. And so, the mainstream scientific consensus is that consciousness is an experience that is happening in the complex activities of neurons. But why do we have it? When did it evolve?
what does the activity of the neuron look like? Does it look like these electric sparks that travel from one neuron to another, like how y'all visually representing it right here? Like that zzz, zzz, it looks like electricity that goes from one place to another, according to this example. And this is not the only example where this happens, right? Is that the activity of the neurons?
And for what purpose?
Or do they like vibrate or something? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm sorry, man. Like I'm just, I have one of those minds where I want to know, most nuanced detail about it. You know what I'm saying?
To try and answer this, we must look beyond the brain.
Let's look at it.
To the outward behaviors of conscious beings.
Whoa.
How far away from the human lineage can we cast our net and find consciousness?
Good question.
In the past, many had thought that only humans could be conscious. René Descartes suggested a separate physical body and thinking soul, and since animals didn't have souls, they couldn't be conscious.
But don't you guys sometimes wonder that, if a human being can tell you that, an animal doesn't have a soul, bruh, isn't that because that human being is who concludes that on behalf of that animal? Maybe in that animal's own way of thinking. I'm not saying we share in the way animals think. No, we don't. That's why the animals are human beings. But in its own way, don't you think it believes it got a soul? Let me get up. But this is one of them questions. Don't you believe it had? And it's big. And just because the human decides, this thing doesn't have a soul, and then that's the reality, right? Are humans the only bearers of objective reality, bruh? And for as long as the human believes, I'm the only version of creation that can be the highest value of what reality deserves. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the reindeer tells itself, bro, I'm the official ultimate version of reality. Look at these humans. What the hell? They wear all these materials over their bodies whenever it's cold. Bro, that's weakest. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like my version of creation is the ultimate it, bruh. Nah.
But more recent philosophy has re-examined this. And in 1974, the American philosopher Thomas Nagel asked, what is it like to be a bat? We as humans see the world through a uniquely human lens. Everything about our perspective of life is influenced by our experience of being human. From strictly biological factors like our eyesight and our sense of smell, to less tangible things like our capacity for strong emotions and our relationships with others.
Crashing out.
To know what it is like to be a human, therefore, is a question only a human knows the answer to.
That's what we say.
Just as only bats know what it is like to be a bat. And so, if there is an experience that is like being a bat, then bats, logically, must on As Thomas Nagel put it, an organism has conscious mental states if, and only if, there is something that it is like to be that organism. To Nagel, that something was a subjective experience, and any organism that has its own subjective experience of being itself is conscious.
Oh, yes.
But is there...
And listen to this, though, you know what I'm saying? Another hot take, it may be a sideways take, maybe an ignorant take, but look. I feel like for whatever creature we're looking at, right? Whether it's the human being, whether it's the bat, whether it's the bee, right? Whether it's the tree, right? Like, it is the way it is, and it continues to be that way because these things, they reproduce, right? All these kind of species I just named, they reproduce, and for as long as you reproduce and keep replicating your current version of being, you find it okay, right? So since you listen to, I'm going somewhere. Since you find it okay to be that way, that's why you reproduce the next generation of that. You understand what I'm saying? And since now you keep replicating the next generation that you telling yourself that this is the right way of being. This is the correct way of being. That's why I keep creating this. I feel like, as a collective of that specific type of species, that species reproduces because to them it's like this is the ultimate way of retaining consciousness, is being this human form, right? So I'm gonna keep making more humans, aka I'm gonna keep replicating babies. Probably dogs tell themselves the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Probably bees tell themselves the same thing, bruh. You know what I mean? Because now I feel like, for you to be like, you know what? I want to discontinue reproducing this. You know what I'm saying? No, lo and behold, you probably might come back as a freaking, you might go as a human and be like, nah, I don't want to reproduce any more human, and then probably you spend all your time just reproducing maybe academic work and and then just you grow probably other aspects of you, goddamn it. Maybe your literary skills, you feel what I'm saying? Write a whole lot of books, whole lot of poetry, a whole lot of you know what I'm saying? You might come back as, I don't know, a school syllabus. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may, I don't know, you can, because that's all that you focused on. You were like, man, fuck having babies, you know what I mean? Fuck all that. I'm gonna spend all my time just researching about like the greatest literary just English pieces and role models and probably other languages and national, you know what I'm saying, pieces of art. You feel what I'm saying? And then you pour all your energy in that, bro. Obviously, by the time you just like end your human journey, it's like a whole lot of your work is out there, bro. You famous, like you literally reincarnated as as English poetry instead of human being. So in your mind, subconsciously believe that literature is the highest form of consciousness because that's what you was aware of the whole time. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, maybe animals got the same kind of freaking consciousness.
There is experimental evidence to back up this idea. In studies by Lynn Snedden, trout injected with acid showed prolonged rubbing of the affected area, reduced feeding, and started antisocial behavior. When given painkillers, their behavior soon returned to normal. In zebrafish, injured individuals exhibited anxiety-like behavior and avoided locations associated with prior pain. Here, we can clearly see non-human species having a conscious experience, processed in the brain and shown outwardly in their behavior. Clearly, animals as alien to us as fish can learn to avoid pain, insects like bumblebees can play, and also, crabs can have favorites. Hermit crabs cannot grow shells of their own. Instead, they choose their shells from among those shared by other organisms, or even bits of plastic or litter found on the beach. And so, in a study by Barry McGee and Robert Elwood, hermit crabs were given small electric shocks to see how this would influence their behavior. Generally, they found that a couple of small shocks were enough to put a crab off its current shell and to make it leave in search of a new one where it wouldn't get shocked. So far, so predictable. But if a crab was in a shell that it particularly liked, it took considerably more electric shocks to convince it to leave. It took even more shocks to get the crabs to vacate their shells when the researchers introduced the scent of a predator into the water.
What does that mean?
On the one hand, they could leave and stop getting shocked, but risk being eaten by a predator, and on the other, they could keep being shocked, but remain safe from predation. The study therefore showed that the hermit crabs were not just having instinctual reactions to the pain, they were behaving in a remarkably relatable way, showing a conscious experience we can imagine.
Bro.
Crabs and bees.
I feel like, the one relatable point, one relatable point on that is the fact that, for as long as you like the whatever environment that you find yourself in, you're gonna want to attach to that environment, right? That kind of makes sense, even to the human experience. You're gonna want to attach to that, you might just overstay your welcome, you know what I mean? No matter what points of pressure that you go through in that environment, you might just develop a whole bunch of tolerance for whatever bullshit comes with that environment. And you know what I'm saying? Just because like it. Yeah. done met that person that you think, you know what I'm saying, never can live without and shit like that, and then now you like, yo, nah, I think, you know, the rest of my life will be okay with me being here. Like, man, damn well, you were just like planning to, you know, just move on real quick, man. It was just like a place of business, man. You know what I mean? Business is over, bro. You gotta scoot on over where you come from. You know what I mean? Nah, but I feel like the rest of my life will be okay out here, bro. You know what I'm saying? I just met the... Oh, you done met her now. Oh, shit, I see. It's okay, bruh. Even though, you know, she damn well she started to step out on your ass. You know, you start justifying that whole, nah, man, I gotta stay, you know, gotta stay. Man, come on, bruh. Sometimes that shit is poison, y'all know it. You know what I mean? The crabs be on the same tip? That's interesting.
These are arthropods, animals with exoskeletons, which, along with fish, evolved in the early Cambrian, more than 500 million years ago. And so does this mean it's possible that consciousness has existed, at least in some form, for all...
Y'all know I gotta check my stuff manually, bro. I just gotta make sure that my sound is still okay, okay? I'm just gonna check this, my fault. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I think we cool, my bad.
all that time? The answer is, we don't know. This is one of the great unresolved questions in biology. Did consciousness evolve once, in the common ancestor of all animals that have it today, or did it evolve many times, in different forms across different branches of the evolutionary tree?
And then all it's doing now is just moving on to different forms, right? Ooh. Now, you know what I'm saying? The age of the machine, the human being is becoming machine and it's merging with that. You feel what I mean? That might be the new form of consciousness. You know what I'm saying? And the whole conversation where it's like, yo, it's AI, you feel what I mean? These AI algorithms or whatever machine, you know, the fourth industrial revolution kind of conversation. You know, when these instructed bots, you know what I'm saying, start developing their own, even they give themselves their own instruction, boom, right? And that's that new form of evolution just having taken on its own form of consciousness where it can make its own decisions. That's crazy.
Consciousness is costly, and brains are especially expensive to maintain. In humans, our brains use around 20% of our total energy, but make up only 2% of our body weight. For evolution to favor something so metabolically expensive, it must have offered a serious advantage. One idea is that consciousness helps animals make flexible decisions.
Just say that again,
something
please.
so insane. In humans,
what? Use 20%?
consciousness is costly, and brains are especially expensive to maintain. In humans, our brains use around 20% of our total energy,
Of our whole body's total 20.
but make up only 2% of our body weight. For evolution to favor something so metabolically expensive, it must have offered a serious advantage. One idea is that consciousness helps animals make flexible decisions, just as hermit crabs are able to weigh up competing risks. They can ask themselves, is it better to stay in my shell and endure electric shocks, or leave and risk being eaten? Another possible advantage is in social interaction. Animals like primates, elephants, dolphins, and some birds live in complex societies. Being able to anticipate the thoughts or intentions of others, what scientists call theory of mind, could give conscious individuals a survival edge. But of course, one thing that is clear is that not all consciousness is the same. It exists on a spectrum. At one end, there might be
I could imagine, obviously, that's pretty obvious, right? And you know why? Because of how these different species develop, bro. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, like human beings, they develop in the way of like having 4 limbs because that's what they need. You know what I'm saying? For the environments that will sustain their human form. You know what I'm saying? You only need 4. These, they need probably, you know, different kind of limbs, different kind of, you know what I'm saying, different number of limbs, you know, versus maybe saying a spider, you know what I'm saying? versus a bird. Feel me? It's like it's you only will be given the tools that make you fit for the environment that will exist in. You know what I'm saying? As a bird, you got those wings because being in the sky, it makes up a lot of your existence, bro. You need that. You don't need no wings as a human being, bro. We on the ground, nigga. We 10 toes. That's why we got 10 toes. Standing on business, boy. Standing on business. That's why we conduct business. Cause we gotta eat. That's how we eat. But we don't just like go out in nature, man. Snatch the whatever wildebeest and just like start munching on that. No, bro. You gotta go cook that. That's expensive. You gotta make the money. That's why you gotta stand on business, conduct business, cause you're a human being. A bird doesn't have to conduct no business, bro. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to make it simple for the layman, man. Yeah, it's like simple.
Kind of minimal awareness that allows an animal to feel sensations, learn from them, and even make decisions based on subjective experience.
Yep.
A bee rolling a wooden ball for the apparent joy of it may fall into this category.
True.
Their lives would be more than just instinctive reflexes, but they would still be grounded in immediate experiences, tied closely to the here and now, or, in the case of zebrafish, a simple sense of do not go there.
Nice one, nice one, nice one. And I like the little pause that you've given me there to breathe. History of humankind, because this is a perfect time for a little quick word from the sponsors. Right back at it like a bad habit.
I just want her box merry-go-round. Ain't mercurial blood vessels, my skin do shine. The son of the god it does.
Let's make sure that we get back at it like we never left, right? Make sure that we get back at it like we never left. Smooth transition, smooth operator. You feel me? When did we become conscious, right? I'd say also breaking down, when animals became conscious, goddamn, because I feel like, this breakdown is more, it makes more sense when we, break down when humans became conscious versus, when we putting it against the consciousness of other living species, right? Like animals. You know what I'm saying? Because for the most part, that's what we've been. I'm not gonna lie to you. Let's get back to it.
Human consciousness, by contrast, is of a very different order. We don't just feel, we imagine, we plan, we create.
What else?
Our minds can turn an object into a symbol, a simple piece of stone into a tool, and a blank wall into an...
I'm not gonna lie, that's facts. You know what I'm saying? Like, transform whatever tools that we have. Saying, I'm pretty sure, like, the idea or the concept of weaponry, the reality of weaponry, you know what I'm saying, it had to transform from people using sticks and stones back to, you know what I'm saying, things like nukes. Boom. You know what I mean? Things like nukes. Yeah.
Extraordinary piece of art. It's a leap into abstraction.
That is a leap, that's what I'm saying.
The ability to represent things that are not physically present. And this is what some call...
Oh, nah, that motherfucker was a gooder alert. The thing that created this? Hey, man. Yo, first version of gooning. But he clipped that, not gonna lie.
Higher order consciousness. And it is what allows us...
What? Hey, yo, that figure had like a fish head,
action.
bro. Hold on, check.
The ability to represent things that are not
this.
physically present.
Not this.
And this...
Stop, dog. A lizard head or a fish head? Is that a fish face or a lizard face? But like, them things be hanging low, chick. I ain't gonna lie.
is what some call higher order consciousness.
Bro.
And it is what allows us to conceive of time, selfhood, morality, myth, and art.
These lunar art pieces, bro.
And so
lunar
while
figures.
bumblebees, fish, and hermit crabs may have a form of consciousness, it's very different to our own. They hint that awareness runs deeper into evolutionary history than we might have thought, But that doesn't explain when we started being conscious in a distinctly human sense.
But I ain't gonna lie, I feel like awareness is awareness across the board, dog. Eh? I feel like awareness is awareness across the board. It's the same for every species, like creation. I just think what the differing factor, what makes us kind of see ourselves as separate from all other species, because we are, right, is the mind, right? I feel like that's the phenomenon of the mind. You know what I'm saying? The mind will convince you, like, no, dog, like, yo, human beings live this way. And obviously, since the dawn of the human, that's why you are human, right? That's what makes you different, is because you conduct yourself different. You understand that, you know, you require different needs out of your environment. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, that's why you have to think a certain way. And so obviously, the mind is by default created or developed from that point onwards. You know what I'm saying? So it's the mind, like consciousness as like awareness, you know, being aware, like just being aware of the space of creation. Like, yo, this is where we at. And you know, when now we run off of maybe instinct, I'd argue that, you know, once you run off of instinct and impulse and things like that, the primitive stuff, that's where you are like more attached to and like responding to nature. You know what I'm saying? You only get up and go eat when you feel hungry. You know what I'm saying? You're not concerned about like future generations and future wealth building and creation. It's like, you're like birds don't think like that, I would imagine, right? But lions don't think about, yo, legacy and generations that it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, it's as per our hunger. Then we move. Once we full, we just lay down here, we bask at the sun, that's it, that's all. I'm saying. So that's the whole like being aware of like what you gotta do, being aware of your survival, just being aware. I feel like everything has that. Just your mind, how you gotta function in your form of creation, right? That's what makes the whole difference.
When it comes to our own human lineage,
Okay.
how long has it been since we began to truly experience consciousness as we know it today?
The first mind. Whoa, wasn't that what we just broke down, brother? It's the mind. It's all in the mind. Hey, it's a mindset thing. Boom, hey, it's a mindset thing.
Deep in the scorching heart of the Jordan Rift Valley,
What happened?
there are objects that don't seem to belong.
Seriously?
This is Ubadia, a place that has not been disturbed by human hands for over 1 million years.
Ooh, cap. Are you serious, brother?
Today, it is nothing but a small mound of dusty earth that
Okay, maybe it's because you know it's inevitable.
looks over an expanse of dry grass. But once, a huge lake would have stretched across the landscape. All kinds of animals would have lived here. Wading birds would have tiptoed through reed beds, while hippos would have wallowed in the cool water.
Yeah.
Evidence of such ancient diversity has been found in abundance at Ubadia: the skull of an imposing buffalo with giant horns, the bones of giraffe, deer, even the remains of mammoths. But among this menagerie of creatures was discovered something much stranger.
What? Human
For when
remains.
archaeologists excavated Ubadia, they found a collection of stone objects
Okay.
with a shape unlike anything else in the surrounding environment. In stark contrast to the jagged natural rocks and even the flaked and shaped man-made choppers, scrapers and hand axe tools that were common at such sites, there were 150 stone spheres.
Sphere.
They are made of the same kind of rock that naturally occurs here, but it's obvious, even at first glance, that these are anything but natural. Something or someone created these three-dimensional polyhedron spheroids, and not just here.
Okay, so maybe, you know what I'm saying, just maybe, if like it's human trails that we are, I'm saying, concluding that these are, you know, a derivative of the fact that human activity was was, you know what I'm saying, out here. The fact that humans were out here, but because it's like rocks, it's nothing but just maybe spheres. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there was just a form of weaponry, form of maybe defending themselves against something. You know what I mean? But for the fact that maybe it's no human skulls and bones. Sorry to put it that way, but like, because it's not that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, we can't conclude that, yo, no humans lived here, but there was some human activity here, you know what I'm saying? Where maybe they were intending on, you know, defending or attacking something. I don't know. Here, let's hear it further, right?
They are documented all across Africa, Europe, and Asia.
Yep.
But who could have made them and why? Over 1 million years ago. In 1891,
Yes.
Eugene Dubois discovered the first ever ancient hominin fossils from outside Europe.
Wow.
An up-and-coming academic with an unswayable passion for human evolution, he was convinced that the missing link between Homo sapiens and our ancient ape ancestors could be found in the tropics. He spent years combing through caves and digging up muddy river sites on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, but it was on Java that he eventually found what he was looking for.
What's that?
On the banks of the Solo River, at a site called Trinil, Dubois and his team unearthed a small collection of hominin fossils.
Bro?
There was a skull cap, a thigh bone, and a tooth, all from the same individual who died hundreds of thousands of years ago. Dubois called the fossil discovery Java Man and considered it to be somewhere between an ape and a human. His long-searched for missing link.
So is Eugene Dubois one of the first people to make, or his works, the contributors that they come from apes or some shit? I mean, you know what I mean? Oh shit, these things, you know, do come from a time when, yo, it's even hard to fathom or grasp the concept of human. 1 million years ago. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, and it's discoveries like this that make you, you know, it just opens up a possibility for different kind of realities that used to be, right? I mean, I'm not one of the people that bought this concept of, yeah, humans do come from apes, but golly, let's just keep listening, man. Maybe they cooking, right? Maybe.
Of course, we now understand that Dubois was pretty far off the mark with those assumptions.
He was far off the mark. Thank you. Boom. He was probably smoking a lot of weed. No, okay, I did say it's not him. It may be the whole people dissecting his work and his discoveries. Probably, you know, an ambiguous conclusion shit. But like, oh, he's insinuating that people do come from apes and stuff.
In the 1950s, after more hominin fossils had been added to the record, it was decided that Java Man actually belonged to just one of many different hominin species that existed. Homo erectus, a hominin who spread across the world from roughly 2 million to 100,000 years ago.
In that work.
But just how human was Homo erectus? In 2014, researchers from Leiden University in the Netherlands re-examined the Java Man collection. It turned out that Dubois also found almost a dozen shells belonging to a species of extinct bivalve, a mussel-like creature that lived around 500,000 years ago. The research team, led by Josephine Jordans, noticed some markings on one of the shells that were conspicuously absent from Dubois' description of the Java Man collection. Nearly invisible to the naked eye and resembling geometric zigzags, Jordans and her team came to the conclusion that the markings weren't there by accident. Someone, 500,000 years ago, had deliberately carved them into the shell. In fact, it's thought that whoever engraved it also used the shell as a tool, because the round edges appear to have been intentionally sharpened.
Chipped away.
And so Jordan's study calls to mind the image of an ancient human, a Homo erectus, sitting on a riverbank, their brow furrowed in concentration as they carefully engrave a pattern onto a shell. Maybe they found a shell a few weeks before and decided it would make a useful tool. Perhaps they liked it so much they decided to decorate it with intricate patterns. Or maybe the markings were put there to identify it as their shell and nobody else's. But whatever the case, it's clear that at least some degree of conscious thought went into the production of the engraved shell tool.
You said it's
Some
clear?
even think that the engravings could be classed as something very human. Art. Artistic expression, as well as the capacity for symbolic or abstract thought, is thought by many scholars to be what distinguishes our own species, Homo sapiens, from other closely related hominins.
I can see that.
Making art signals the presence of a mind that can deal with symbols, not just sensations. To make or understand an artwork, you must allow a mark, sound, or gesture stand for something that is not present.
Ooh.
That leap from the concrete to the abstract is the signature of symbolic thought. It shows that people can detach meaning from the immediate and bind it to conventions that others share. But artifacts like the engraved shell from Java, which was made many hundreds of thousands of years before Homo sapiens even existed, bring that assumption under scrutiny. Indeed, if consciousness the same as our own, or consciousness that was at least very similar, existed 500,000 years ago in Homo erectus, could it be even older? And this is where we can return to the collection of spheres found in Obadiah. In 2023, a team of researchers, led by Antoine Muller from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, published a paper in the journal Royal Society Open Science, revealing that a human species intentionally shaped the 150 spheroid stones from Obadiah some 1.4 million years ago. The archaeologists found that they were not naturally formed, nor the accidental byproduct of repeated hammering. Instead, the spheroids were carefully shaped in a deliberate sequence. The archaeologists said that the stones exhibited a regularity suggestive of a deliberate intention to craft geometric shapes.
Oh, for real?
Such regularity and attention to geometry indicate that Homo erectus was capable of imagining a desired outcome and methodically working towards it. Other than these three spheroids, Homo erectus also made symmetrical hand axes, teardrop-shaped stone tools that could be used for cutting and chopping. Oldowan tools, made by earlier species like Homo habilis, were probably just as functional, but lacked the symmetric shape of hand axes.
Seriously?
And so why would Homo erectus make symmetrical artifacts?
Yeah, well, it's for their survival, bro. I would imagine it's for their survival. Like, every phase of, like, the human development needs tools for it to continue surviving. Understand what I'm saying? So maybe to cut its meat. You know what I mean? They were conscious of the fact that, yo, my teeth are not enough. And they're not sharp enough. So I'm not gonna keep sharpening my teeth because that's messing up with my, you know what I'm saying, chemistry of like my brain and all of that, you know, all that shock towards the brain, unhealthy food. You know what I'm saying? They were getting smarter. They were like, yo, nah, I can chop this to be able to cut through the flesh of this animal.
Facts. The answer may be very simple. They thought they looked good.
Oh shit.
The symmetry of hand axes and the near perfection of the stone spheres suggests that Homo erectus may have appreciated aesthetics for its own sake. And yet, Homo erectus brains were often considerably smaller than our own. Although there was a lot of diversity in their brain size throughout time and across space, as you might expect for such a long-lived and widespread species, Homo erectus brain volumes averaged around 900 cubic centimeters. Modern human brains, meanwhile, average around 1200 cubic centimeters. Although, what matters more than size is structure and organization. Endocasts, which show the internal shape of the skull, demonstrate that Homo erectus brains already had a lot in common with our own, including enlarged frontal lobes, which house the prefrontal cortex, one of the regions Cork and Crick believe is critical for consciousness and which is most associated with planning, decision-making, and social behavior.
There we go. There we go.
At the same time, though, there were structural differences.
Let's get into it.
Homo erectus brains lacked some of the complexity and expanded surface area seen in Homo sapiens. This likely meant less capacity for rapid symbolic communication, fine-grained memory, or the subtle layering of abstract thought on which culture depends. In short, Homo erectus minds may not have been filled with the same constant dialogue and recursive imagination that define our experiences of consciousness.
So you're telling me they weren't like plagued with you know, pretty much scrambling for their future, you know what I'm saying, and family planning, you know what I mean, and all the nigga getting a degree, you know what I'm saying, to secure maybe you being able to feed yourself one day. Like maybe the different arrive there, because like the human life, you know, because of how the human has developed, has become so complex, dog. So therefore the human has to deal with a heavier load. As an example, maybe that's why the head became bigger, dog, you know what I'm saying. Mr. and Mrs. Huge Head, you know what I'm saying. I ain't gonna lie, it is what it is. It's what nature has calmed down to. Yeah, as a result, man, it's like, yo, these guys were not concerned too much about like, yo, wealth building and, you know what I'm saying, new forms of survival, you know, just switching up on you like that.
Today,
Pretty consistent in their ways.
and yet, if Homo erectus could make art, their subjective experience was certainly not the same as a bee rolling a wooden ball.
Right.
Their brains suggest a consciousness that was recognizably human in its foundations. Perhaps they lived slightly more in the present moment than we do.
That's what I'm telling my audience, history of humankind. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we just like uptight with things, bro. They were just like purely living in the moment. Human beings, they live in the past so much and they live in the future so much that that's where we now get concepts of like maybe depression, right, and anxiety, like intense like anxiety disorders, things like disorders, bro. You know what I mean? And it's because, yeah, the memory bank also has a whole lot to do with that, and the memory bank is part of, like, you know, where the brain stores some stuff too. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what part in the brain exactly, but where the memory stays. You know what I'm saying? Being plagued by maybe traumas of old. You know what I mean? Even just like pleasant moments of old. You know what I'm saying? End up living for those, and then, you know what I mean? You live for those, and then by default you start constructing your future. Like, you live for your future, and then it's like, yo, it is what it is. It's what we've come to, but that's where you get like a whole bunch of humans are not in the moment, like, you know what I'm saying, enough for them to even understand, you know, their entire chemistry as themselves. They don't know themselves because, you know what I'm saying, you are absent of yourself, right?
But on this evidence, we can speculate that they still carried minds capable of reaching beyond the immediate into symbolism, aesthetics, and intentional creation.
Right.
It seems at least the beginning of higher order consciousness dates to well over 1 million years ago, and may have first evolved in our Homo erectus ancestors. And if we trace our lineage forwards, we can also find clues that our advancing cognition was helping us to survive. Our story now takes us to a collection of waterlogged fossils near Kalambo Falls in Zambia.
Hey, what happened?
This site has been dated to around 470,000 years ago, around 150,000 years earlier than the oldest Homo sapien fossils.
Right.
So it would appear the minds at work here are not yet of our species. No bones have been discovered at this site, but Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, and Homo naledi are possible contenders. Or perhaps...
Wait, let me double check on that Homo naledi joint, because Homo naledi is actually like a common name out here in South Africa, bro. Wait. Homo naledi speak. Homo naledi is an extinct species of archaea discovered inside there. What the fuck, bro? Golly, bro, get out of here, bro. Nigga, naledi is literally a present day name used to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people give their girl children. Hold on, let me just switch this light on. I'll be switching it up. Yeah, yo, a whole lot of an get into. But naledi, you know what I'm saying? It's like girl children out here get given that name. Hold on. Africa is a unique mix of modern traits. Yo, I'm literally not kidding. Yo, wait, what is it saying? The name naledi is of Southern African origin, meaning that primary brightness, hope, and guidance. That's what the name means, right? Bro, literally, it's present day, bro. Homo naledi, bro. I thought that was a shot, bro. That shit is reality. That's crazy.
It has changed how I think about our early ancestors, said Professor Larry
Shout out
Barham.
all my naledies out there, bro. My sisters out there, bro. Beautiful, bro. I ain't gonna lie, bro.
Leader of the research team. For here in Zambia, he found the earliest evidence for structural use of wood in the archaeological record. Our ancestors were building. 2 wooden logs were uncovered, lying at right angles, with a notch cut into the upper log that allowed them to slot together, much like the logs of a wooden cabin. It's hard to tell what sort of structure it might have been, remarked Professor Jeff Duller. It might be some sort of structure to sit beside the river and fish. We may never know exactly what the structure was or what it was used for. Possibly for fishing, storage, sleeping, or other activities.
Possibly.
But what we can be relatively sure of is that a species that existed before our own used their consciousness to create something that likely aided their survival. Professor Barham concluded, they used their intelligence, imagination, and skills to create something they'd never seen before, something that had never previously existed. And so it would seem that we can look to human species other than our own.
But that nose is pissing me off, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Yo, this nose is pissing me off, bro. Shout out Bruce, drop him off. But y'all know how people can get online, dog. How would you design something like that when somebody like Bruce drop him off still exists? Let's go at what he does, dog. Y'all be creating designs that make like people, you know what I'm saying, disrespect people that they look up to, bro. Stop that shit, bro. Are you sure that they noses like that? Man, y'all claim y'all only found the fossils. You know what I'm saying? Not like the real body organs.
And find what might be signs of
things, and what y'all imagining is offending other people. Potentially, I would say potentially, allegedly. Alright, let me just...
art or ownership, as well as planning and design. Yet as remarkable as these cognitive capacities were, they also raise profound questions about what truly set Homo sapiens apart.
What was it?
We are, after all, the only remaining hominin species on the planet, and our specific quality of consciousness likely had a major part to play in our survival.
Seriously.
So what explosions of consciousness, culture, and creativity took shape solely within our own lineage?
I ain't gonna lie, great question right there. And great question right there. But at the same time, we need to hit, our sponsors real quick before we commence.